What up? This is your cosmic homegirl, and I am doing a video today to tell you guys about solar return charts and how they're important and why they are important. So, before I get started on them, I'm just letting you guys know also that I have a sale on solar return charts in honor of my own solar return that's going on. So the sale is going to be through May 21st of 2019, and I'll have a link in the description area below the video to where you can order one for yourself. So why are they important? First of all, what is a solar return chart? Well, pretty much what it is your birthday and whatever is going on above you in the sky on your birthday. It is frozen, and that makes a natal chart for one birthday to the next. So pretty much it's like your natal chart when you were born, but every year you're reborn on your birthday. So and the reason why is because there's always a different configuration going on up there on your actual birthday. And it's not just always, it doesn't always land on your exact birthday. It could be the day before or the day after. It just depends on what day the sun gets to the exact degree of your natal sun, because it's solar chart, right? So why are they important? They tell you about your year. They tell you about that year and what's going to go on for you. And that's in every area of life. You can see it so clearly. And you can even look at the transits of other planets to your solar return chart, just like you do a natal chart. And that can show like things that happen to you throughout the year. So as an example, and also to kind of explain things, because I know I've been like on different hiatuses at different times from my YouTube and from my Instagram and from Facebook. I've just had a really crazy last 2 years or so. And the solar return charts, oh yeah, they have all the craziness have showed up in them every time. So this is the solar return chart that I'm currently in, and that I'm finishing up from 2018 to 2019. So last year on my birthday in 2018, this was my solar return chart that was configured, right? And what was crazy about it is what we look at first with the solar return chart is the ascendant. What sign is the ascendant? We even look at the degree, and we can compare it to your natal chart. So in my example, my natal chart, I am a Scorpio rising. My rising sign is 10 degrees of Scorpio. So with my solar return chart from 2018 to 2019, last year on my birthday, the ascendant was 9, almost 10 degrees of Scorpio. So what does that tell you? That was going to be a year of coming into oneself even more, because the ascendant on the solar return was almost exactly the same as my natal ascendant. That means the sun is in the same place it is in my natal chart too. It's, in my natal, it's like right here, right below the horizon, but it still counts as 7th house in a lot of ways too. So we look at the ascendant, the sun and the moon mostly, just like you do your big 3 in your natal chart. And that can be very telling for your year, what's going to be your biggest focus. So with the ascendant being the same sign and almost same degree as my natal ascendant, that told me that it was all about me that year. Like a lot of things with my own self were going to change. That even means appearance wise, physical body wise. Things were going through a lot of crazy changes. So how I can explain what this meant, like, in life, like what happened in real life. I did gain a lot of weight. Well, not a whole lot, but it's significant enough because I'm a very small, petite woman by nature. So if I gain even a couple pounds or lose a couple pounds, like it's super noticeable, right? So my physical appearance and body was a big focus for me. I loved the weight that I put on. And also these 2 planets here in the first house of the body told a lot about me having times where my weight fluctuated too. The moon in the first house the moon is round, right? So it can make you a little more round, okay? Like literally. And then Jupiter is a planet of expansion. So it can expand your physical body, your weight, when it's in the first house of the self and the body. So yeah, I did get a little more rounded, and I absolutely loved it. Loved it. Loved being a little bit heavier. But this is, the moon fluctuates, the moon changes, every day the moon shifts, and it changes phases. So yeah, my weight has like gone down and up in this last year, and that's very apparent here. And I did start to work out and do a little more physical activity. So that's also a part of this right here in the solar return chart too. Now, taking a look at the sun position, this means that relationships were a really big deal for me last year. And you see, what had happened was, when I started that solar year on my birthday last year, I was in a relationship. I had been in that relationship for 8 years. And it was a huge focus. It did come to the forefront and to the surface as far as, was the relationship going to continue? So it was a really big theme for me. The relationship did not continue, unfortunately, during this last solar year. We broke things off. And, it was, that's just something that happened. I'm not going to get into all details and like be all drama or anything. But yeah, we broke things off. My main relationship, my long-term relationship, we broke things off. And even after we broke things off, relationships still continued to be a big focus and factor for me. I did end up, still dating a little bit after we broke up. I had a couple of like short-term, not committed relationships, but experiences with a couple people that were so karmic and so profound and really made a difference in who I am. And also with me seeing how I operate in relationships and what I was missing in relationships and what I shouldn't stand for again in relationships. So big relationship themes last year. And I was very focused on them. And, I had some times where I was very down, and it was all because of relationship issues. They really played a big part. So also, looking at other factors, Venus was in the 7th conjunct the 8th house cusp, and there was a really big focus. One of the issues with relationships was very 8th house. It was intimacy. So that means, like, to me, it's like, I, especially as a Scorpio, I like when someone actually looks me in the eyes when we're having a conversation and actually pays full attention to me. That was a big problem, was there was a lack of attentiveness, and I didn't feel a closeness in some of the relationships that I had. In one of them I didn't. The main one, I didn't feel I was getting that. Like, I wasn't paid attention to. And there was very little like eye contact and real like intimacy. And then, I did have a couple of people that I met, and they were actually the type to give you eye contact and pay full attention to you and stuff. So it really brought it to the forefront. Like, that's what I was missing, in the 7th house, but it was 8th house themes also, because it's conjunct the cusp of the 8th. Venus square Neptune. That was very telling. I did have some situations where I felt like the feelings were not reciprocated properly. Like, I was the one, and I had this vision of what the relationship was, and the other party, or parties in some cases, they didn't see things the way that I saw them. And I felt a lot of times like I questioned things like, is the way I'm seeing things real, or am I just being naive and like envisioning things and idealizing things, So those issues did come up too. Also, Chiron was in the 5th house of dating and romance. Oh, let me tell you. Yeah, when I did start like to date again, let me just say that the Chiron, the wounded healer, having some pain associated with it, it was way too real. Like, it was like some of the worst pain of my life. over the last year. I couldn't date without it being some sort of experience that did end in pain and lessons and karmic stuff and learning about myself and learning about dating and other people. Like, it could not be, I couldn't do the surface level dating around thing for the life of me. You know, some people, they break up with someone, they're like, hey, I'm single to mingle, what up? And they just like, oh, no, you don't work out, next. Oh, thank you, next. Oh, you took me out to dinner, you spent money on me, okay, I don't like you, I don't care, next. I couldn't do it. I those experiences did not come to me. It was very serious, heavy, themes, even with just casual dating. With Mercury in the 5th house, Mercury is how you communicate. And the 5th house can be very flirtatious and just wanting to be very flirtatious and romantic and stuff. And I did have experiences with that, to where I was that way. I was more that way, more than I have been in a long time. I was seeing someone, and I was interested in someone, let's just say. Didn't really get to the seeing each other point, but I was interested, very, very fond of somebody, and I wrote them like little love notes. And that's something that I don't usually do, especially to someone that I'm not like in a committed relationship with. But I was very bold, and I did write them like some little love notes, and that's Mercury in the 5th. And I was very expressive of my feelings to that person. And then in another situation, I was actually seeing someone, and I wrote them poetry. I've never written poetry for anybody before. I have always felt like I suck at poetry. But I just whipped up some poems, and I was like, wow, they really inspired me to be more romantic and be creative. And that's like lessons that I learned last year. They opened me up to that side of myself after it had been like closed off for a long time. So I'm very grateful. It didn't come without some sort of pain, which is Chiron here, but I'm still grateful that that playful romantic side got to shine through, and now I'm like, hey, it's awake now, you know what I mean? Regardless of whether or not those situations really manifested into something solid, which they didn't, I was open to being very 5th house again. So what else can I say about this chart? Well, in regards to jobs and career, Uranus was in my 6th house for the whole year. And this was in my natal chart too, because Uranus is a slower moving planet. So I did have Uranus here in the 6th house of work. And Uranus brings extreme ups and downs and changes. So what had happened was during that solar year, I had a job, a solid full-time job that had a set schedule and everything, but it didn't last that long. It lasted a short period of time. And I experienced so many extreme ups and downs with that job. It was crazy, really crazy work that I had never done before. Also, Uranus can bring like weird, crazy things and new experiences that are foreign to you. So yeah, I did some crazy work. I had never done like, warehouse work, and I was doing warehouse work. I was working some crazy hours. It was really insane. But yeah, there was ups and downs with that job that were extreme. And then I got let go from that job. And then I went into more Uranian type of work, which is a job where you can kind of pick your schedule and pick your shifts. Actually, I picked up 2 of those jobs, 2 companies to where you can do that. And it's very random. Like, it's not a set schedule. You do pick your shifts. Like I said, one of them, they actually text you, hey, can you work this shift? It's, here's the details, and you got to be here in an hour or 2 hours sometimes, very random, very Uranian. And you got to just get up and go to that job. So I picked up very Uranian work, ups and downs with those too. But hey, it's the best thing for you when you have Uranus in your work house to do either a lot of freelance work or to have some like not like set schedule, job positions that you do. And in each job you can work a different position. Like for example, I hadn't done bartending before, and I did some bartending jobs, and just other positions I've never worked before. I ended up doing some really random stuff, and I absolutely loved it. It went along great with this transit. Once Uranus did go into Taurus last year, it did affect my natal chart and also the solar return. That's why it was like double that my relationship ended. My long-term relationship came, to an end. And then very Uranian in nature, I suddenly met, someone else a short while later that was a very big surprise, totally out of the norm from my usual type. Just really woke up a lot of things for me to meet this person. And then randomly, after that person, then some other random, experience showed up too that I just did not expect. And I learned a lot from that situation too, and so on. So anyway, also with career and stuff, I was actually going through my nodal return. My natal north and south nodes are also in Leo and Aquarius. So when you have a nodal return, that means things are coming full circle, and it's a very karmic time for you. Very heavily karmic. So completing cycles and stuff in life, it was super intense. But just in general, the north node here in the 9th and 3rd, but they're conjunct the MC, which is the career, and the IC, which is home axis. Yeah, I had to move again, and I did change careers, and there was like a big cat and mouse game between these two areas of home and family and career, trying to balance it all out. It got really insane. And in the end, I figured things out. Once you come to the end of your solar return cycle, a lot of this stuff, you look back, you reflect, and you've learned, and some of it does calm down. It's not as crazy, and you figure out like the balance, for example. But yeah, I did have to move, and I did have to make some changes within my career, because I had some crazy job stuff. I had a job and career, and they were separate, and it's like whenever I was in one area a lot, which was, the job, the career, then it's like family and home life suffered a little bit, and back and forth. It was a cat and mouse game pretty much. Also having Moon and Jupiter in the first house. Moon is your emotions. And so I was super mad emotional, super emo so easily this whole past year. I wore my emotions on my sleeve, and this was Scorpio energy. I really wanted that Scorpio exchange of emotion between myself and other people too. Like surface level conversations didn't cut it for me. Like anybody who just wants to text, hey, WYD, LOL, LOL, and that's all they say, I'm like, you're boring. I don't really care to talk to you. I want a deep conversation. And I would actually prefer a phone call or to talk in person. And if we talk in person, you got to look me in the eyes, and we got to have like, you know what I'm saying? I wanted all that Scorpio stuff. And when I felt like I wasn't getting it, that's when it was like, you know what? You're not somebody that I'm really interested in, So I really wore my emotions on my sleeve much more than I usually do. And I was really expressing it, in a lot of ways more than usual. Also, Saturn was here in the second house, going back to like work and career. Saturn in the second, this can make your material resources a little more scarce. This can have you working much harder, maybe working more jobs, working more hours. Maybe you do so much work, but you don't really get a lot in return sometimes when Saturn's in the second house. It puts like kind of more of a limit on how much money you can make sometimes. So it was difficult for me to be able to, I did get to make some decent money here and there, but it wasn't without a lot of work. Like Saturn doesn't make things easy for you. So it wasn't impossible to make good money. It was just a lot harder. He would be like, nope, you got to do more. Nope, you got to do more. And when I did the absolute most to where I was drained and exhausted and like ready to pass out, Saturn in the second house did reward me with some money, some decent income. And Saturn's energy was making a trine to the sun, which was good. This is your willpower. So a lot of people tell me, man, you went through so much, especially in like a very short few month period of time. You went through a breakup, you went through job stuff right after that, and moving right after that, like a separation of a family, and and everything within a few months, and you just took it like a G. Like, that's what a lot of my close friends who know the whole story, that's what they told me. And I think the sun trine Saturn, you know, in the relationship house, this made me keep pushing on, even though things were not going the way I would have liked them to, and mostly focus on building a new life for myself. And also the second house is your self-worth. This is your self-worth. This is your valuing yourself, you know? And so there was a lot of work I had to do with that, with self-worth. Another thing with Chiron in the fifth house, this is the house of your self-esteem. And fifth house energy a lot of times can deal with validation. You need applause from others. You need validation. And this is romantic partnerships. So I really learned a huge lesson about having self-esteem and having confidence, even when there's no man to validate it for me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, even if I didn't have a romantic partner, you know, to tell me that they think I was beautiful or whatever, that was something I really like had a hard, painful, emotional lesson with. Because in my serious relationship, there was very little of that. I didn't get a lot of compliments or a lot of like affection, which fifth house can deal with that too. A lot of affection and you know, words or actions that gave me validation that I was beautiful, I was attractive, and I was romantic. And so I felt like I wasn't. And then when I had situations where someone was giving me that attention, it made me feel that way and it made me light up. But then when those situations had to end, who was I left with? I was left with myself. And I still didn't really feel that way, you know? So I had to work hard to make myself feel like, even with no one telling me anything or validating anything for me, I still should have some self-esteem. I still should have confidence, just because, you know, and a lot of self-love and self-worth. Heavy lessons with that, with this solar return chart. Okay. So, you know, and also, the third house is communication. Look at all these karmic, you know, this is a karmic influence here. These two planets can make you do some serious hard work, you know, put a lot of laser sharp focus into this third house of communication. This could be, yeah, some karmic things you're dealing with. And I've had a lot of that stuff come up, communication. And then Saturn, you know, transiting Saturn through my natal and solar return third house really taught me a lot of heavy, hard lessons about communication, about speaking up, speaking out, telling people, letting people know what's up, what's going on. Letting people know, even if I was like upset with them or they did something that was not right. You know, I learned a lesson about that, just letting them know and communicating with them and clearing the air, getting it all out. You know what I mean? So, anyway, with this axis being the same as my natal chart, I can tell you that every area of life in this this last year was heavily themed and had like a lot of energy that I put towards it. That's home, relationships, career, the self, all these areas. I felt like I was on a cross and being pulled in all these directions at once. They all demanded my time, energy, and attention. And it's a wonder that I'm still alive. You know what I mean? Like, I really felt like I was on a cross, and I went into autopilot a lot of times to where I was like kind of halfway functioning. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm really glad that this solar year is over. It was really intense. This is my next solar return chart, 2019 to 2020. And I'm just going to look at it briefly and let you guys know what I see and, you know, what I look at in your solar return charts too. So once again, we look at the ascendant. Mine is in Capricorn. So Capricorn is the sign of my third house in my natal chart. So communication, maybe some media work, maybe some speaking work. But it's going to be a huge theme for me is whatever my third house, you know, my third house stuff. But the ascendant in Capricorn, that's all about business and building and restructuring and, you know, things. And it is more about business and serious minded. And then, I've got a stellium of planets in the second house. So that means money, self-worth, self-value, all that are going to be another huge theme. And check this out. My natal moon is 27 degrees Pisces and my solar return moon is 28 degrees of Pisces. So what would that tell us? Moon on moon for a whole year, that moon themes are going to be huge. So moon is family. Moon is motherhood, parenthood. It can deal with your own mother. It can deal with your household. It can deal with your emotional self. And so that means I'm going to have a year that has those themes very heavy. Okay. In the second house, that's money. So money and family, money and emotions, emotional spending, keeping that under control. There's like how secure I feel in my material world can affect me emotionally, so that's some things I'm going to have to work on. And then I have some planets here in the third house, which once again, that can mean like media and communication. Sun and Uranus together in the third. That tells me I'm definitely going to bring back my podcast, you guys, and I'm going to revamp it and, do some things like that. I'll be doing more broadcasting this year, more YouTube, and this is very telling. Mercury's communication and so is the third house. So communication is still a really huge theme for me this solar year. Mars in the fifth, you know what? Mars is challenged. It's got some square aspects that it's making to some planets and an opposition. So it is going to be challenged, but Mars in the fifth, I actually like that. Fifth house is hobbies. And Mars is active, and I'm actually getting back into one of my active hobbies as we speak. And so I feel like this solar year, I'm definitely going to still maintain being active in dancing, for example, and my other creative hobbies. Super active there. Mars in the fifth can also mean maybe some more conflict with children. It can mean also a very active romantic life, so, hey, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. It's better than having Chiron in the fifth, being all emo about my romantic life. This is having fun, and fun can maybe burn out very quickly, but hey, it's still fun. I like this placement here. But yeah, and North Node in the sixth house. It's in the sixth house, so that can be work and being organized. And so that's going to be huge this year, but it is also conjunct the seventh house cusp. So once again, relationships are going to be another theme for me and another factor this solar year. Jupiter in the 11th, it does have some squares and an opposition and stuff, but it is making a trine aspect here at least. And, that can be very good for building networks. And I do plan on getting back out there with my creative hobbies. And there is a whole like scene and network, that ties into those hobbies that, yeah, I'm going to be trying to expand upon that. Again, it's retrograde. So that's bringing back. And actually, I'm getting back into stuff that I used to do 10 years ago and beyond, and before. And I was really heavily within a certain network of people. And so retro is going back. So I'm getting back acquainted with all of those people. And I'm very excited about that. So Jupiter retro definitely says that in the 11th house. But that's just a briefly of my next solar return. I'm going to sit with it on my own, on my actual birthday, and pull some cards for myself and, get back into it. But I just wanted to show you guys what the solar return chart can show you. Some of the stuff may seem kind of scary. Maybe there's people that are like, oh, I don't want to know if my relationship is going to dissolve or if I'm going to have trouble with this or trouble with that. But you know what? To be forewarned is to be forearmed, number one. Number two, this is just to help you to understand that what's going on is divine timing. I'm telling you guys, me understanding that solar year, those are just things that were supposed to happen, saved my life for real. Seriously, because there's a lot of things that were so heavy that came up, and I was just wondering why is this happening? This is so difficult. Why? And looking at your astrology can tell you why, the theme, the lesson. And this is just this time, and time moves, time shifts and changes. So now look at my next solar return. It's a lot different. So that means that, you know, this year is going to be different than last year. Things that were happening to me that were difficult, they're not going to stay the same and stuck like that forever. You know, the wheel turns, the planets shift. So it helped me out so much to understand everything crazy going on in my life, to look at my solar return. So that's it, you guys. I just wanted to show you that example. If you would like me to read your solar return chart, then please go to my website, indigomoonastrology.com. There's links to that below, and I'll put one in the corner as well. And don't forget to give me your full birth information. That means I have to have a time of birth to have an accurate solar return chart. So if you don't know your accurate time of birth, unfortunately, you know, I wouldn't be able to do one for you. But if you do, you know, you have your birth date, your birth time, your birthplace, but also I have to base the chart on where you are on the day that the sun returns back to the degree it was when you were born, or your actual birthday. Where you're at on your birthday, or where you will be if it's a birthday that's ahead. You have to give me that reference place for it to be accurate too, because even a different point in longitude and latitude, if you're in a different city, this can all shift, and it can make a big difference, you know. So remember, it's birth date, birth time, birthplace, and place you are at, or that you were at on your birthday or will be on your birthday. I have to have that info, and then I can see what's ahead for you. So thank you guys for watching, and until my next video, take care of yourselves, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram also for further astro information, and check out my website. All right, peace.